Imagine that all the oxygen on Earth suddenly vanished. Not forever, just for 5 seconds. Would we simply hold our breath, or would something far more dramatic happen? What would become of the atmosphere, the environment, and the planet itself? This is What If, and here's what might happen if the world lost its atmospheric oxygen for only 5 seconds. First, a crucial clarification. In this scenario, we're only talking about the disappearance of molecular oxygen gas, the O2 that makes up about 21% of our atmosphere. The oxygen atoms bound up in water, rocks, and even our own bodies are staying put. This distinction is the difference between a few moments of global chaos and an instant apocalypse. So, what's the first thing you'd notice? Take a slow, deep breath. That refreshing feeling comes from the 21% of the air that is oxygen, with most of the rest, around 78%, being nitrogen. The instant the oxygen vanishes, you'd feel a bizarre and painful sensation in your ears. Losing 21% of the atmosphere means losing 21% of the air pressure around you, instantly. This sudden pressure drop would be equivalent to being instantly transported from sea level to an altitude of 2,000 meters, or over 6,500 feet. Your inner ears, which are designed to equalize pressure gradually, would have no time to adjust. This would cause severe barotrauma, leading to intense pain and disorientation. For some, it could even lead to ruptured eardrums. But what about breathing? 5 seconds doesn't sound like much time. Most healthy people can hold their breath for at least 30 seconds without issue. Your body wouldn't immediately suffocate. The oxygen already in your bloodstream would keep your brain and organs functioning. Your blood oxygen saturation would dip only slightly, not enough to cause you to pass out. Your automatic breathing reflex would continue, but for 5 seconds, your lungs would be inhaling air devoid of its most vital component. You wouldn't notice the lack of oxygen itself, but the world around you would be changing dramatically. Without oxygen, fire cannot exist. Combustion is a chemical reaction that requires an oxidizer, and oxygen is Earth's go-to. Instantly, every flame on the planet would be extinguished. Wildfires, gas stoves, candles, and lighters would all go out simultaneously. This also means that any vehicle relying on an internal combustion engine would fail. The controlled explosions that power their pistons would cease, causing millions of cars, trucks, and buses to stall and grind to a halt on roads worldwide. In the sky, the situation would be even more terrifying. Jet engines would flame out, and thousands of airplanes would lose all thrust, transforming them into multi-ton gliders. While pilots are trained for engine failures, a simultaneous global event like this would be unprecedented. Interestingly, electric vehicles would be completely unaffected, continuing to drive silently through the chaos. The same goes for nuclear power plants and hydroelectric dams, which don't rely on combustion to generate power. As our engines fail, our planetary shield would also vanish. The ozone layer, which is made of a special form of oxygen called O3, protects us from the sun's most harmful ultraviolet radiation. Without atmospheric O2 to form it, the ozone layer would effectively disappear for those 5 seconds. The sun's UV rays would hit the surface unfiltered. While 5 seconds is too short to cause a significant sunburn, the spike in radiation would be intense. At the same time, the sky itself would change. Our sky is blue because sunlight scatters off particles in the atmosphere, primarily nitrogen and oxygen molecules. With 21% of those particles gone, there would be less scattering. The sky wouldn't go black, but it would darken noticeably, taking on a dimmer, deeper hue. The effect would extend even into our oceans and lakes. The dissolved oxygen that fish and other aquatic life depend on would also vanish, creating a state of acute hypoxia. 5 seconds is likely too short for a mass die-off, but it would be an immense shock to these ecosystems. Now, what about the ground beneath our feet? You may have heard that without oxygen, concrete structures would instantly crumble into dust. This is a common misconception. Concrete, like the rocks that make up nearly 45% of Earth's crust, contains oxygen, but it's in the form of stable oxide compounds. Because only the O2 gas in the air is gone, these structures would remain perfectly intact. The Hoover Dam, the Pantheon, and every skyscraper would stand firm. Similarly, the idea that untreated metals would instantly fuse together is also incorrect. Metals are protected by a thin, passive layer of oxidation. While this layer would stop growing for 5 seconds, it wouldn't disappear, preventing any spontaneous cold welding. The real chaos would be in our infrastructure. Power stations that rely on combustion would trip, causing widespread blackouts. Hospital emergency generators would kick in, but the brief disruption could be critical. The sudden stop of millions of vehicles would create unprecedented traffic gridlock. And then, just as suddenly as it vanished, the oxygen would return. A wave of consequences would follow. The sudden repressurization of the atmosphere would be another shock to the ears. Fires that were extinguished might reignite explosively if a fuel source and ignition point remain. Pilots in gliding airplanes would frantically work to restart their engines, a process that isn't always guaranteed at high altitudes. The 5-second pause would be dramatic and dangerous, but not apocalyptic. However, if all oxygen were to vanish, not just the gas, Earth's crust, oceans, and all life would instantly disintegrate. That is a catastrophe for another day. For now, you can breathe easily, knowing that the 21% oxygen in our atmosphere is stable. This thought experiment highlights not our fragility, but the incredible interconnectedness of the systems that make our world possible. And if you enjoy exploring possibilities like this, it's a great reminder to always question the assumptions behind every what if.